Donald Trump is running for president again with a remarkably transparent set of priorities. Protect himself legally, punish his rivals, and keep the money machine humming. And while he's had unsettling success with the first two, the third remains the one constant in Trump world because the grift never stops. Not for him and not for the rest of the family that has benefited from his political rise in ways no previous first family ever came close to. The latest example comes from Melania Trump, who has reappeared, as she so often does only when there's a financial venture attached. Her newest business rollout, delivered through a bizarre, unsettling holiday video, has already become a flashpoint, especially as Donald Trump himself spirals through his own holiday season meltdowns. But before we unpack Melania's strange new endeavor, it's worth grounding the conversation in a broader truth. This family has monetized political power at a scale that would have been unthinkable a decade ago. And few people have broken down that pattern more clearly than Jessica Tarlov, whose analysis lays out exactly how the Trump orbit has turned public office into a personal revenue stream. Josh, tell him I loved his op-ed. And Greg mentioned a staggering level of corruption. And I just got to note that the staggering level of corruption from last night's memecoin dinner 40% of Donald Trump's wealth has been accumulated since he became president because of 2 crypto coins. The New York Times did interviews with foreign buyers of this cryptocurrency who came over here to have dinner with him. A guy from South Korea. This is not even part of this segment. So what you're talking about a meme coin? No, I'm talking about who's corrupt and who is profiting off the American office. Let's be clear about what we're watching unfold here. It's been barely a month or two since Jessica reported that Donald Trump had already pocketed billions with at least 40% of his net worth now tied up in crypto schemes connected to his political brand. And that number hasn't just grown, it has exploded. But we can't let the spotlight stay focused on Trump alone because the grift extends far beyond him. Jared and Ivanka famously walked away with $2 billion from the Saudis for Jared's hedge fund money that came with a stunning stipulation. Jared Kushner was not allowed to manage it. Think about that. The Saudis handed him $2 bile, explicitly acknowledging he was too incompetent to touch it, yet still framing it as some kind of legitimate investment. It's laughable. It's insulting. And it's yet another window into the galaxy of corruption orbiting Trump. As Senator Chris Murphy bluntly pointed out, every one of these hangers-on from Jared to the rest of the Trump-adjacent idiots has found a way to turn public service into a private cash grab. And now, right on cue, we arrive at Melania. This is a video I did just a few months ago about a little-known Florida drone company called Unusual Machines. Specifically, Donald Trump Jr. just went on the advisory board of a very small drone company called Unusual Machines based out of Florida. And as soon as he went on the board, guess what happened? The stock price of this company doubled like overnight because in this environment in this White House, everybody knows when the fix is about to be in. And guess what? This little Florida company just announced they are getting a huge contract from the Department of Defense. So Donald Trump Jr. goes on this board. He has a $4 million investment and then months later they get this enormous contract from the federal government. It's for drone motors. Apparently, they just started making drone motors like 5 minutes ago. The corruption is just so bold and brazen. It used to be that people who were on the take would try to hide it. The Trump family doesn't even try to hide it any longer. They're just literally robbing from you. And it's your money. And this is taxpayer dollars. Last week, Donald Trump says that he's going to make the Department of Justice pay him hundreds of millions of dollars for grievances that he made up about how he was treated by the Department of Justice before he became president. Now, Donald Trump Jr. is just awarding himself, we don't even know how much money yet, probably millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars for a company that he just went on the board of. This is outrageous. And whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, you should be outraged by this because once you are able as President of the United States to just steal from taxpayers, like every day, that's a genie that you don't get to put back in a bottle. What we're watching isn't some isolated ethical lapse. It's the full evolution of a political dynasty that long ago abandoned any pretense of legitimate enterprise and embraced corruption as its core business model. The Trump family has demonstrated repeatedly and unmistakably that they lack even the basic competence required to operate in the real economy. So instead, they've built a financial ecosystem where influence is the product, the presidency is the storefront, and the American taxpayer is the cash register. From Don Jr. and Eric dabbling in what looks suspiciously like market manipulation time to Trump's Truth Social tiers to Trump himself padding his pockets by routing government business through his golf resorts. The grift is constant and unapologetic. But Melania's latest venture, a production company conveniently branded with her former Secret Service code name, takes the brazenness to a new level. Amazon's $40 million documentary deal isn't an artistic investment. It's a down payment on political access in a potential second Trump administration. Bezos didn't buy a film. He bought leverage. And the Trumps, emboldened by years of zero consequences, don't even bother hiding it anymore. Their shameless Fox News defenses only underscore the obvious. This isn't incompetence. It's entitlement weaponized. Critics are saying, hey, well, maybe you shouldn't be doing this. The New Yorker, for example, says the number. How much is Trump pocketing off the presidency? Axios, President Trump and his family stand to net $3.4 billion by the end of the second term. David Kirkpatrick reports for The New Yorker in a piece today. The number of why it matters. No U.S. president has monetized the highest off in the land quite like this. Eric, your answer to those headlines. Brian is infuriating. We had nowhere to go. Capital One stripped 300 bank accounts from me. 300 in the middle of the night. They sent us a letter after doing business for 20-some years. All your bank accounts for golf courses and condominium buildings and hotels, they're all gone in the middle of the night. I mean, how do you pay your taxes? How do you pay your employees? This happened across the board. It happened with J.P. Morgan Chase. It happened with Bank of America. It happened with First Republic. And this wasn't just happening to the Trumps, people with a lot of zeros on the end. This was happening to conservatives all over the country. We didn't have a damn choice. So before my father, won the election, before my father was in office, we started getting into cryptocurrency. The people in cryptocurrency were being debanked just like Trump was being debanked. And you know what? It's become the fastest growing industry anywhere in the world. It's actually removed a lot of the power from the big banks who have weaponized their platforms against the American people. And I could not be more proud to be. I don't notice them talking about the hundreds of millions of dollars we had to spend fighting lawfare. That doesn't matter, right? That was all nonsense, right? Russia, 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 you name it. Impeachment 1, hoax 2, 3, 4, 5, infinity. No one talks about that. Don Jr.'s latest offense is nothing short of delusional. A public confession wrapped in entitlement. His argument essentially boils down to this. We broke the law before and faced consequences. So now we're going to break the law again, but this time we demand immunity. It's breathtakingly absurd. Do they genuinely not grasp that they were debanked because Donald Trump incited an insurrection and built a criminal empire masquerading as a political movement? Do they not understand that banks and businesses cut ties because the Trumps aren't victims? They're simply terrible at business. The only reason anyone wants to deal with them now is because corruption pays. And the Trump family is offering access, not competence. Their foray into crypto wasn't inspired by innovation. It was inspired by the industry's convenience as a laundering mechanism for foreign governments and corporations eager to buy influence. As Jessica noted at the start, the sheer volume of money this family has extracted from public office is staggering, and they're doing it right out in the open, as if public visibility somehow inoculates them from accountability. Don Jr. and Eric frame their grift as something they deserve, as though insider trading is a reward for their own criminal behavior. And once again, Senator Chris Murphy is one of the few voices calling this farce exactly what it is. The blatant exchange of U.S. national security secrets, our most sensitive drone technology, and our most sensitive chip technology in exchange for cash into Donald Trump's pocket is perhaps the most brazenly corrupt act in the history of the American presidency. And we cannot normalize it just because he is doing it out in the open in public. The Senate, which is given the responsibility by the Constitution to be a co-equal branch with the President. We have independent responsibility to uphold and protect the Constitution to set American foreign policy. We cannot pretend this is not happening. We cannot look the other way while the entire moral foundation of our foreign policy is being shattered. Republicans can't ignore this just because the President is their party's leader. We have that independent obligation to protect the Constitution, which clearly says that these gifts are illegal whether they're going to a Democratic president or a Republican president. We have a responsibility to our taxpayers to stop a president from immorally enriching himself, using the power we give him to help himself instead of helping us. Chris Murphy has been one of the few Democrats who has stayed laser-focused on this theme throughout the entire Trump presidency, calling out the corruption, the grift, and the authoritarian slide with a consistency that frankly puts most of Washington to shape. And that's exactly the model the rest of us should follow. If Murphy can keep hammering away at the truth despite the noise, the threats, and the sheer fatigue of dealing with Trump-era chaos, then so can we. This isn't the moment to look away. It's the moment to double down. So, what do you think? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. The next one is even more controversial.